welcome back. And of course, as promised before the break, we are joined now by Robby Thigpen, author, and Rudolph Neal, assistant researcher, talking about a specific book that is focused on marine life in Belize. And the book title is Their Secrets a Lillian de Lobster They Live in the Caribbean, The Life History of Panoluris Argus, the lobster that live in the Caribbean, and the next secrets of the ocean. Spelled in proper Creole, I have to tell you that. Sounds strange to say that proper Creole.
Yes. Well, I think using the Creole is a very important thing. With the Creole Council working with us, Miss Myrna, can't say it. I'm just going to say Miss Myrna because that ties my tongue in knots. And Savannah Woods working with us on this thing. And we're using it in Creole and English. If we just wrote it in English, like the official language, that'd be all well and good. But when it got to the chapter on the Goliath grouper, the little child out there at Key Cocker going to come home and tell his daddy, the fisherman whose father and grandfather was fishermen, he said, "Daddy, I just learned about the Goliath grouper today. And look at these nice pictures in the book, so-so." And his daddy's going to look at him kind of funny and listen to him for a minute. And then he's going to say, "That book's a liar. Me fishing in your waters all my life. No Goliath grouper." But if that same child come home and said, "Daddy, I learned about the Jewfish today. That big fish you caught last week tastes nice." In that book, tell me, and the son's going to tell him what happened and tell him the stuff, and then he's going to say, and in English they call it the Goliath grouper. I'm using the Creole to effectively, everybody learns the names of the sea creatures of the sea in Creole and all, and so we're using this to effectively teach these marine conservation concepts, because in that context, using English and the Creole, we can use the accepted common names, but also the common names that are appropriate for Belize. And
why did you decide to undertake writing a book about marine life in Belize?
Well, I've been doing research down here for quite a while. I work with the Northern Fishermen's Cooperative a lot of times, and do all my research about 27 miles straight over there at Key Cocker. And I've been working with lobster fishing for a long time. I didn't come down here to do this research with a lot of science. Oh, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to do that. And no disrespect to them, but I didn't come down here with that. I said, well, I might want to look into this and this, but I want to learn from the fishermen what kind of research I need to do. So I came down here and operated as a sideman. And in that context, the fishermen taught me a lot of things. And just like they teach any sideman that's come new and working with them. And that showed me some of the directions where I needed to focus my research. But also in that, I was like, well, there's these places that are missing, and maybe we should have this, baseline foundational Caribbean marine conservation concept book for the younger audience. And that idea kind of started forming in my mind in the midst of doing this other research. And I was at a friend of mine's house, Jeff Layton, in North Carolina, about a year and a half ago, and his wife's an artist. She's doing all these illustrations. She's a wonderful, amazing artist. And she said, well, my son's about to be in kindergarten. I want to do something to help animals. What can I do? I'm like, well, you're an artist. I bet I can think of something you can help me with. And so she began doing some of these illustrations for us. And I think my idea and all this here about the concepts of the book and all that are really, really good. But it's her illustrations that's really going to bring this book to life. Because without those, it's just a bunch of words. And she's just doing an amazing job on that. And so that's kind of where we started. I came down here last October for a visit to some people. I wanted to show it to the people at Coastal Zone and Fisheries and all that, and get some feedback about how they felt about this project. And got a lot of positive feedback from everybody. But that's also about the time the lionfish had completely invaded the Caribbean. And they're like, Robby, all these systems are very similar. And look what the lionfish did. It doesn't know any national or international borders. You can't just have this for us. You got to have this for everybody. That would be to make my head explode, because on this side of the Caribbean, there's a lot of Spanish-speaking countries, and one Spanish doesn't fit all. The common names change from place to place. There's also indigenous languages, and I had to set out upon a way to figure out how I needed to do that. And what I got in that is partners from all the countries of the Mesoamerican Barrier Reef. And in Mexico, I got Gris Salas Cubas working on it, and I got a couple of students in Guatemala working with us. And in Honduras, I got 3 people working with us, but we're working on 2 different versions for Honduras. One is in the Spanish and Inglés de Roatan, or the Creole of Belize, and the other is an indigenous language in La Mosquitia. So we're really trying to target these audiences in a really good way. And, in Honduras, in this book I write about Key Calker and Ho Shan, but people in Honduras don't want to hear about that. I want to hear about, and no disrespect, that's just, I want to hear, if it was my country, I want to hear about stuff in my country. So we're changing it to Utila and Roatan Marine Park. And so the translations are not just literal translations, they're cultural translations. And making it appropriate for the country that it's being written for, and or adapted for, rather. It's being written for Belize first. And so I think doing all this stuff and these things, we're taking them, we're putting, because they're making the book unique for their location, I'm making them second authors in those countries. And I think all those things will give the people of those countries a greater sense of ownership of the concepts we're discussing in the book.
Now, Rudolph, what has been your involvement in the project itself?
Well, basically, with the project, Robby has done extensive research and worked with the fishermen, and he proposed to me that he want to write the book in Creole so as to reach out to the younger audience in Belize, given the fact that Creole is our language. And of course, he's an English-speaking man, so he asked me, and also of note, Celeste Castillo and Jamil Castillo, and also Zaida to help with the Creole translation, and also to do a little research and a little more about what he didn't knew. So in accordance with the book, we basically took over the Creole translation, and as Robby said, with a special issued Creole dictionary from the Creole Council with Miss Myrna Manzanares and Miss Livana Woods and those wonderful people over there. And we translated the book in Creole and did a little research on the island also.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about the book is, and you're right, it's a combination of factors. You have the Creole text, you have the photograph, and then you have the English. Then you also have the
common names.
Yeah, the common names and scientific names for the, like, this is the lionfish here. Now, all of this information coming out from one book, why decide to make it so condensed and cover all the aspects?
Well, there's so many things going on out there in the sea, and so many really topics that need to be covered, and it just seemed like a good way to present this thing forward. And there's no really book like this, I think, anywhere in the Caribbean. And there's certainly been, I don't think there's ever been an initiative like this, like we're going to try and do this. I mean, imagine what it would be like, and all the countries are teaching, this kind of stuff. But this country over here teaches one thing, and this country teaches this other thing, and they're both teaching good stuff, but they're teaching things differently. What would it be like? And I didn't get this idea myself. I got this idea from talking to fisheries and coastal zone and all these other people down here. What would it be like if all the countries in the Caribbean were on this same level with this foundational marine conservation concepts? How strong of a structure could we build off of that if we got this one solid foundation across the region? And I'm just trying to put as much of the stuff into it as I can. I want to keep the chapters very short, less than 500 words. I don't want lose people's attention span with a younger audience, and that's a very important thing to do. So I have to condense these huge conservation concepts into just a short amount of stuff, and that's been quite a task in itself. And I think we can do this. It's going to be really good. We want to have, our goal is to, we hope that we'll be able to get this in the schools. We haven't had any commitments to anybody, but we haven't completed the book yet. And I don't want any commitments from anybody until they've seen the finished product. But our goal would be to have this, I think, about 36 chapters, one for each day of the week, or less 2 weeks of the year. The first week and the last week, there's all kind of things going on in the schools, but one for each week of the year. And maybe they could teach this class just one day a week, and then we'll, each week a new conservation concept about it.
What's your target audience? Because as you talk about moving in to schools, is it a elementary level, is it a secondary level, or is it a tertiary level, or is it multi-layered to be used at any level?
Well, I'm thinking right now maybe 10 to 13-year-olds and all, because I think that's the group that's going to really be more interested in illustrations and photographs, and I think that's probably about as young as we can get. Of course, that changes a little bit from school to school, depending on what's going on in the school. So, there's some room there for fluctuation. But I think about that. If this is successful, I do see another edition for higher levels of education and possibly even later book for the university. So this will be a continuum of this thing, with it getting more complex and more complicated as we go along.
Now, this is teaching science concepts, but is there some kind of a hook for the information? Is it primarily theory at this point, or what kind of discovery methods or new methodology in terms of letting science stick for young people that can be employed? I know the illustrations are fabulous, but how do you get the information to stick and for young people to connect with it?
Well, I think what you just said about the illustration, that's going to be one of the big hooks. What I've written, if it's just those words, without the illustration, it's just those words. I think the illustration is going to bring the book to life. And as far as what's going in there, there's no theory in there. It's just, I'm a kind of a where the rubber hits the road kind of guy. Try to be practical. And this is just, except for the lionfish stuff, I learned everything out there. Lionfish is a little bit different. It came along just last year, and we're learning more and more stuff about that every day. But everything else that I've written in there, I learned operating in the fishery with fishermen. And this is the stuff I'm writing about is addressing things that are going on every day. And so it's no theory, it's just practical and things that I know that are going on.
Now, Rudolph, working along with Robby and doing part of the translations, how did you find it as an educational tool with the information that is being transmitted?
Well, as an educational tool, I found it very astounding because we always go to the keys, we always go to the waters, and oftentimes we take it for granted, like not knowing what exactly is the purpose of a certain fish, or for example the manatees, and how oftentimes they are killed or run over. So it was very educative for me, and given the fact that I'm studying to be a teacher, I take it as a lesson, and so the information was wonderful, and I plan to employ some of the tactics in my classroom when I become an educator also. So I found it very educating, and it has a wealth of information, and it can expand your thinking just from the basics. So it's wonderful.
Now, in terms of how do you textbooks are not something that are very popular in Belize, and we know that textbooks around the world don't earn money. So how do you get a fully illustrated textbook produced? What numbers are you looking at? You're laughing, but it's true, right?
Right this minute, everybody working on the project are volunteers. And that's been a wonderful thing for us. And everybody that sees this just gets excited. And once again, it's not about my writing. They see those illustrations, and so they pay attention to what I've written. Yeah. And but everybody's volunteering on this right this minute. I don't know that we can sustain that. I think we're going to have to find some funding to continue this on forward. It's gotten to be a lot bigger project than I thought it would be. One of the things that I'm trying to address, I work with the lobster fishery. I've never been accused of being a manatee specialist or a whale shark specialist. And so, how do we address that so somebody will believe that what I've written about the manatees is correct? Well, one thing I did, I'm having these chapters, I'm treating them all as if I'm presenting them as a peer-reviewed publication for a scientific journal. I write what I've written, and then I submit it to marine scientists who are specialists in that area. For the manatee chapter, I had Esther Quintana Rizzo from Guatemala. I have Nicole O'Neill from right here in Belize, and Zoe Walker, who works up north at the Manatee Rehabilitation Center up there. And they went through this and reviewed it and vetted it to make sure that it's accepted as accurate. And they're not changing any major things. One of the things they changed in that one is I called the manatee a big marine mammal. And I was, I'm focusing on the sea. And they said, no, they go in the river sometimes. You have to call them an aquatic mammal. So they're not really, they're just making sure everything I say is completely accurate. And that's a real good thing. The whale sharks, Rachel Graham down south has those right now. I'm trying to use as many scientists who work here and are from the region as possibly can. And I want to try and use as few Europeans and Americans as I can, because this is a Caribbean and especially a Belizean initiative. And so I think people working in here, we've got a number of scientists working with us on this thing, and different organizations who are saying, yes, well done. And so go ahead.
Sorry, and projected date in terms of when this becomes available, will it, I know you said about 36 chapters.
Yes, sir.
How many are completed? When will you roll them out over time, or will it be one big production?
Well,
Ta-da!
yeah. Well, there's a couple of things going on. One, I've got about 11 chapters written right now. The vetting process has ended up taking a lot longer than I thought. We've only got a couple of chapters vetted right now, and so really a time frame I don't have any idea. But I do want to share a little something with you. The Northern Fishermen's Cooperative has generously donated, going to make a software donation for us, and we're going to be working on an ebook version of this too. And I'm thinking maybe next April or May, when I get these first 4 chapters vetted completely, we're going to release that to the country. We have a Facebook page, and we're going to release that to the country with the most fans. And I hope it's Belize and all. And in the country, the 4 countries that are involved in the project right now, and those are Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico, and Belize. So we're hoping to get a whole lot of people involved in it. We've got about 8,000 fans on there right now. But so we're going to be doing little things like that occasionally here and there. As far as how long it's going to take exactly, I don't know. It's getting to be bigger and bigger every day, it seems like. But the ebook version is going to be pretty special. We got embedded video been donated to us from different organizations here in Belize and throughout the Caribbean, and it's a really exciting little thing that they can check out.
Okay, great. Well, how do people get in contact with you if they want to help be a part of the project?
Well, probably the best way would be to find us on Facebook.
Okay.
And the title of the page is Lillian La Langosta. And Lillian is the English spelling, not the Spanish spelling. It was my grandmother's name. And so Lillian, I'm making Lillian the matriarch of the lobsters. And really the only place where we really jump out of science is that Lillian is telling her life history. The lobster lives in all 4 of the primary ecosystems of the Caribbean. They live offshore in the pelagic. They live in the seagrass meadows and algal mats and the mangroves and the reef. And so she's telling the story about the animals that she would meet in all these places along and along. And so, yeah, if you want to get in touch with me, probably through the Facebook page would be the best way. Just write a note on there. I check it every day, or just about every day. And so I'll see it and I'll respond to you.
Okay.
All right. Well, Robby and Rudolph, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Okay,
And we wish you best of luck on a very exciting and different initiative
Absolutely.
in terms of education and marine life education.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
We're going to go ahead and take our final break for today, and when we return, we'll have our wrap-up for today. Don't go anywhere. Open your eyes. We'll be right back.